welcome to DallasWeekly.com. I'm staff writer Katrina Satterwhite, and today I'm interviewing Corey and Priscilla Anthony, who are volunteers at CASA Dallas. Welcome, guys. How are you guys doing today?
Doing great.
Doing well, very well.
Thank you.
Awesome. So for those who don't really know what CASA is as an organization, can you kind of explain to us what that is?
Sure. So Dallas CASA stands for Court Appointed Special Advocate, and we are assigned by a judge to advocate for children who are placed in foster care. So they've been removed from their home due to abuse or neglect.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I've never actually heard of the organization. Surprisingly, I haven't. I've heard of other organizations, but not that particular one. So that's awesome. So what prompted you guys to get involved with CASA? Was it one of you or both of you just kind of decided together? Or?
Well, we started, Corey started just working with the board like years ago through his job, right? And then we became advocates maybe after Corey served on the board for a few years. He decided to become an advocate and put the pressure on me to become an advocate. So Corey actually became an advocate before I did. He had a little baby boy who was born to, was it meth, maybe?
Oh.
Yeah. So Katrina, I can't talk. Priscilla always talks for me like this most of the time. But
That's okay. You support each other. That's okay.
There you go. But no, as she mentioned, so a mentor of mine and a colleague at work was the one who introduced me to CASA. And so I got involved there and got involved in working and serving on the board. And then after a couple of years, decided, hey, I want to take the next step and become an advocate myself. And so went through the training, became an advocate, started working cases, and had been working on Priscilla for some time. And when she was able to manage it in her schedule, she decided to become an advocate as well. So now we're both advocates. And matter of fact, we have a case today that we are working where we are we're supporting the kids as co-advocates.
Yeah, we have a group of siblings, 3 little boys. So it's really cool. We share that case together.
Yep.
That is awesome. So since you guys have been volunteering, have any of your friends kind of decided to do that as well, or family members?
Yes. Yep. We've recently, one of the things that Dallas CASA is really working on is recruiting African Americans to be CASA advocates. And we have a class coming up actually where I think 3 of our friends are going through training. But even prior to that, we've had a few friends who became CASA advocates and were inspired by our work, so which is really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So you guys have rubbed off on them in a good way.
Yeah.
It's what I always say, Katrina, when people understand the work that we do at CASA and the impact that it has on these kids, not only right now in the immediacy, but also on their futures. When you understand that, it's really difficult to resist wanting to be a part of what we're doing. So by the time we're finished with this discussion, Katrina, we'll probably have you signed up for a class to become an advocate as well.
Probably so. Really? How many hours would I need to dedicate to that? Just curious, like how many hours per month, maybe?
I would say on average per month, maybe 8 hours.
Oh, that's all? Okay.
That's between visits. It really depends on the case and it depends on what's going on. Maybe in the beginning of the case, you spend a little bit more time because you're doing a little research, you're reading, but it's not necessarily you're out and about. You could be on the computer reading through files and trying to understand the need of the child. So you have a lot of data that you may need to go through. So the first couple of months, you probably put in about maybe 12 to 15 hours. But after that, I would say on average 8 hours a month.
Okay. I think that's very doable for most people. So I know you mentioned you're trying to get more African American volunteers. So are you really lacking seeing that, or really? That's interesting. I have to be honest, just amongst my circle of friends, I honestly don't see a lot of volunteering in general, not just volunteering to help children. But just volunteering in general. And I don't know what the disconnect is there, but I don't really see that often at all.
Yeah, I think there are a couple of things at play. One, you see in Black community, we see this in the Latinx community and in other communities of color. There is a lot of volunteer work that is happening by individuals, but it's not done in a structured way within organization. So think about it, and I bet you this is true for your circle of friends as well.
Mm-hmm.
How many times that they are helping other people, they are assisting, whether that's extended family, that's people in the community. They're doing this work.
Yeah.
It is not captured as volunteer hours or volunteer work because it's not associated with an organized entity, but it's still serving other folks in the community. And so I think that the work is extensive. The reason why we had that conversation, I don't know, a week or so ago, in an effort to reach out to get more Black advocates, is when you think about Dallas County, and that's what we serve here, Katrina, is if you look at the percent of the population, Black kids represent about 20-21% of that population. Unfortunately, they represent 48%, just shy of half of the kids that are in protective care. So it's disproportionately high, it's disproportionately Black and brown. And then when you look at the advocates that we have at CASA, we have roughly 15% or so of our advocates are Black. And so that's why we were, doing this specific reach out to the community to say, hey, we need more Black advocates. Because just imagine you are that Black kid who's been removed from your home, which by definition means you have been exposed to or subjected to some type of abuse or neglect. So that's traumatic, right, in and of itself. And then as you're navigating the court systems and you've been assigned an attorney to help you, and so you're interacting with all of these strange people who you've never met in the midst of whatever trauma you're dealing with, it is helpful to have someone who, when you see them, right, you have some connection, you have some shared experience. And as that child, you think that maybe this person can understand me, understand my culture, understand my environment. And that's extremely valuable in how we help the kids navigate.
And part of being our job as an advocate, the most important thing when you get a case, you have to build trust. You have to have that rapport. You have to build trust with that kid. And I tell you, it's probably a little bit easier if they look at you and it's like, okay, she's Black like me, or he's Black like me, and they can let those walls down just a little bit. But that trust factor is really important for that child during that time.
Oh, yes. Especially
Katrina, I'd be remiss if I didn't point this out, because we want to be really clear about one thing with your readers and viewers here.
Okay.
We are not saying in any way that if you're not Black, you're not able to be an incredible resource for these kids.
Right.
That's not the case. Matter of fact, we have proof of that, because 85% of our advocates are not. And so you can effectively support these kids in the cases and their cases and not be Black. We're just saying it would be great to have a more diverse representation of advocates to support the diverse representation of kids that are in protective care.
Exactly. I totally agree, because there has to be some balance there. You were just giving me the statistics and the percentages. There has to be some balances so every Black child can see someone that looks like them. So that totally makes sense to me. How many kids would you say you've come across since you've been volunteering or that you've impacted?
Well, this is my third case. So I've had direct contact with 4 kids, and I started in 2017. So I've advocated for 4 kids, 3, 4, 5 kids, 5.
That's amazing.
So she's at 5. She likes to point this out. She's exceeding. So 4 for me, but Katrina, more importantly, that's Priscilla and I, right? The 2 of us, you're talking 8 or 9 kids. But CASA as an organization, this year we will support over 3,000 kids that are in protection.
Wow. And that's in a 40-year, 40 years CASA has been an organization?
No, that's this year.
That's just this year.
That's 2020.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, that's 2020. That's what we'll support this year. And as we say at CASA all the time, right, our objective is to be able to provide a CASA for every kid that's, that's removed or that's in the system and from their homes, I'm sorry. And And we are getting awfully close. We're in the
Yeah.
mid to high 90s, right, in terms of percent of the kids that we are able to provide a CASA. And the good news is this year, each time the judge, right, has asked or assigned a case to CASA, we've been able to provide an advocate for that case.
Wow, that's great. That should make you guys feel, I know it makes you guys feel good. So.
It does. Because part of just advocating for the kid, the judge really, your role is so important. The judge really depend on CASA to help them out, to explain to them what's really going on with the kid. Because it's unfortunate, right? CPS and the guardian ad litem, the attorneys, they have multiple cases. But as a CASA advocate, we have an opportunity to meet with their teachers to find out what they need educationally, therapeutically what they need, medically what they need. I mean, I've gone to so many doctor's appointments. Just last week, I had 2 parent conferences. It was parent-teacher conference, and I had 2 of my kids, I've met with their teachers just to make sure they're getting what they need and they're up to speed. So all of that, CASA reports, the advocates report that to the judge, and the judge truly depend on CASA's knowledge, their hands-on experience with the kid. So your role is very important to the judge and to the courts.
That's a huge impact. I mean, just with the courts and all that, yeah, that's a lot. So you guys are huge advocates. Is there a time where you just had a really challenging case out of those 5 that you just, it was kind of weighing on you? You didn't know if you could.
Yeah, look, I mean, that's one of the questions we always get, right, in serving as an advocate. It's usually the phrase the way that you just phrased it, Katrina, or it is, hey, how do you manage to not get too personally involved and connected with the kids? And there's a few things. So one, before you become an advocate and you get assigned a case, you go through some really thorough, extensive training that will help prepare you for it. Okay, so you don't just sign up on Monday and then Tuesday we give you a case, right? So we prepare you for it. We give you all of the tools and resources so that you're adequately prepared to manage it. What you ask, Katrina, is part of that preparation. So we give you tools, we give you ways to manage that dynamic of this work so that, you handle that in the right way. Now, most people that volunteer to become an advocate do so because they have a passion for helping these kids. So just by definition, by the nature of doing that, when you're helping that child, there's going to be an emotional connection with that kid.
Yes, of course.
I told you there wasn't. But you are not expected to be their parent. So as an advocate, you are not their parent. You're helping them go through this process, and your objective is to help the courts decide the safest home that we can place those kids in. That's what your objective is. And so we don't expect for you to become parents to these children. You're not expected to adopt these kids. You're just expected to really help them navigate that process and help the judge and CPS and all of the other parties that are involved identify and find the safest home that we can put that child in.
But, I'm glad you said that because, we have been actively supporting CASA for a few years before I actually became an advocate. But one of the reasons why I was a little afraid to become an advocate, because I thought I already have 2 kids. This is going to be too much work for me. And I think a lot of people have that fear. So I'm glad you pointed that out because you don't become their parent. You're there to make sure they're safe and they're getting everything that they need as they navigate through this foster care system.
And is this all ages of children or? Okay. Wow.
Yes.
Yeah. So like my first case literally was a newborn infant who unfortunately was born addicted to meth and heroin from day one, right? And so he's in the hospital and it's this infant who's on methadone to try and kick that habit. So we have infants to Priscilla's just wrapped up a case where her student or her kid is actually getting ready to graduate from high school.
And
Oh,
she got adopted last week.
Yep.
And
oh,
so when you asked the question about there have been times when the case was just like, I think, not this case, but I think my very first case, my baby, and the case lasted a little bit. Most cases last about a year, but this case lasted a little bit longer because the child went back to the mother, and it was a monitor to return, which meant when they went back to the parent, I then had to stay on the case for additional 6 months. And I found myself trying to help this 21-year-old mother as well, although that's really not your job to do that, but it's just really hard sometimes to advocate for a child and they've gone back to their home and you're still involved. So then it's like, okay, what resources do she need, to just be successful and to keep her child? And she was really trying. So that case was, there were times with that case it got a little hard. But when you look at, for instance, in that case, the paternal grandmother had just showed up and decided she wanted the child. And after all of my research with the help of my supervisor, I think it's important for us to mention that.
Okay.
Every CASA has a supervisor. And when I say Dallas CASA supervisors are amazing, I mean, they will, if you're nervous about doing a visit, they will go with you. They coach you through everything. So every CASA advocate has a supervisor. But just the heartache of what could have happened when you think about it. But do I get sad about it? There were some rough patches, but in the end, my baby stayed safe. We made sure he didn't go to that paternal grandmother. It showed up in court after, CASA and my supervisor, we did our research. So in the end, you think about, you possibly could have saved another child's life. Sometimes they end up with, a relative that's not a good fit for them.
Yes.
And they could be a shady relative, but it's your job to, look out for that. And it gets tough, but at the end of the day, you feel really good that you kept a baby safe.
Yes, and that's the most important thing. Wow,
Yeah.
that's a story. So I know you mentioned training. So what's involved with training? You don't have to give me all the details, but like how many hours or what you have to go through? Is there a certain time frame?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have some different options that we have worked on for training. Now with COVID, has changed that dynamic, right? In terms of what we can do virtually versus in person. So what I will tell you, and we'll get you details on like the exact length of the training. Again, very manageable, right? I mean, very manageable. Many of, if not most of our CASA advocates actually are working as well. That's one of the sort of the myths, right? Or the misnomers that, hey, I can only be an advocate if I am a retiree or, if I don't have a job. And that's just not true. That's not the case for most of our advocates, right? So it's very manageable. The team is really good. The Dallas CASA team is really good about being sensitive and attentive to that. And so the training, when you go through this training, I won't bore you, or not bore you, but I won't walk you through all of it.
You're fine.
But what that training does is helps you understand the child protective system, right? And understand how the processes play out in the courtrooms, understand what your role is in terms of working with CPS and the lawyers and the judges that are assigned to the case. So they do really good role definition for you, right? So you will know. And then it helps you, and to Priscilla's point, it helps you understand how you will work with your supervisor as you're on this case. And we cannot overemphasize that. We use the term supervisor, but this is your partner. This person is your partner. This person is experienced, very knowledgeable, and they are literally with you side by side every step of the way. So we don't toss you to the wolves.
Okay.
Right? You're going to get all of the support that you need. We're very clear, and the training helps you understand this. We don't have any expectations of an advocate that they would ever be in a situation where they're not safe, where in a situation where they're not comfortable. I mean, that's where the training and partner/supervisor comes in really handy. And so it is not, for those of you that are listening, that are reading this story, do not be frightened to take that step. You will have all of the support and resources you need to be successful in this advocate role.
Well, that's definitely encouraging. And I think, with you guys getting the word out, that's really going to encourage people to, get involved with CASA. So that's excellent. So training, you get a good supervisor, so you're not thrown to the wolves. That's always good. As far as visitations, so do you guys visit different areas? Do you ever visit their homes, or how does that work? Where do you visit through the visitation?
Yes. Well, you visit their foster home. So wherever home they may be placed in a foster home, or they may be with a relative. But they're still, even if they're with a relative, they're still with CPS placement. So yeah, you would visit their home. You also, we have an opportunity. You can take the kid out for an outing. I had recently my teenager who was adopted. She loved to just leave the foster home and go to Starbucks or go have lunch, or go to a museum. You can, you have the opportunity to even take your little ones to the park. That can be your visit. So you're not just confined to visiting with them in the foster home, unless it's some kind of special circumstances where you can't take them. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So for those listening and they want to join CASA, how do they start that process?
So I would recommend the first thing to do, and this makes it really easy, is go to your favorite browser, your search browser, and search Dallas CASA. And you will go to Dallas CASA's website, and there is a wealth of information there that will help you better understand what we do and how we do it. And then there's also the links there where you can begin the process of becoming an advocate. And so go to that website. Incredibly helpful if you go to that website in terms of the information that you will need to help you make the decision.
Awesome. Go ahead. You have
We also often Dallas CASA will host an information meeting. And so I went to and I knew about CASA, but I still wanted to attend. And I definitely recommend that if you're interested, to attend one of the information meetings. And I'm sure they're virtual right now.
Okay. Are those found online at the website?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You go to that website and it'll let you know when the schedule for the informational meetings. And yeah, absolutely, Priscilla's right. Yeah. Attend one of those and you get a lot more detail than what Priscilla and I just gave you. And you'll probably hear from someone who will not scare you as much as Priscilla just did. In terms of her cases. Because there are some of you listening now thinking, man, I'm going to have to raise the kid, take him to the park, take him to the barber shop, the beauty salon, and teach him how to read and write. And no, I'm having fun. You don't do all that. But go to the informational meeting, and they will answer all of your questions and provide you a wealth of information.
Awesome. Well, guys, this has been so awesome. Thank you for shining light on CASA. It's so good to see you guys doing this, and people of color doing this. And I think it would be great just for family in general, just to do this together. I think that's a good bonding type of thing as well. I'll definitely spread the word to people I know as well. But that's going to be our interview for today, guys. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for watching DallasWeekly.com. Again, I'm staff writer Katrina Satterwhite. If you want to find more stories like this, definitely check us out at DallasWeekly.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram as well. Have a great day.